We got a game here. Let's see. Time for, let's see, I did d4, knight f3. How about c4? An English opening. Okay, Yitz. Well, look, we have very comparable ratings. He's 2010 and I'm 1999. I always wonder if my rating here is overrated, but well, we'll see. So he's playing the reverse Sicilian. Well, e4, e5 rather, is a very principled response to c4. And a reverse Grand Prix attack. I think this is okay. Let's go ahead and put this pawn on e3. I'm going to play knight to e2, and I'm going to try and control that f4 square, make it a little more difficult for him to advance that pawn here and mess things up. But that's the general idea with this setup with black. Push that f pawn to f4 and mess up my king side. I'm also going to go after the center with d4 at the right moment, maybe right here. I could castle first, but is there any harm in playing d4? I don't think so. Let's go ahead and play that. And if he pushes on with e4, which sometimes they do to try and shut in the bishop, you have this nice square on f4 for the knight. And if he exchanges, yeah, so he just leaves the tension in the center. That's probably a good choice. I think I can still continue developing. No need to castle just yet. And now, where is this dark squared bishop going? Maybe I will castle. This is, in a way, it's kind of a waiting move. If he takes, it'll open up this diagonal for my dark squared bishop. So, but if he doesn't take, then maybe the bishop would be better placed on this diagonal. So castling in this situation was kind of a waiting move to see what he does. It takes me a couple moves to get my bishop developed. If I'm going to develop it on the queen side, I have to push the b pawn forward and then bishop to b2. Yeah, so he's just continuing to develop with his pieces. So I'm going to go with that queenside development of my bishop then. And let's see, if I go out to a3, I'm putting a little pressure on this pawn on d6. It's defended by the bishop, but that's a possibility. He's looking at maybe playing b5 here, I guess. I don't mind that. If he plays b5, I take, he takes. It opens up this square for my knight, potentially in the future. It's currently not available. If he plays b5, maybe I just push. Let's go ahead and put my bishop out on a3 anyway. And now maybe I'm thinking of taking here. Because now he doesn't really want to take back with the pawn. He probably wants to take with the knight and keep his bishop. If he takes with the pawn, I'll trade off the dark squared bishop. Okay, but he ignores that for the moment. So he's threatening the fork. So he's not really ignoring it. So if I take here and he pushes, I take his knight. If I take here and he takes back, yeah, let's ask the question first. I think I have time for that move. If he plays a fork, I'll take a piece. And he takes a piece and I save the other one. Actually, after I take a piece, he takes a piece, I can take another piece. So that would probably work out well for me. After I take the knight, he has to take back. Yeah, so he took with the knight, which sort of weakens his kingside attacking ideas. That's why I did that. And because without the e-pawn, it doesn't, the pawn push to 4 is not as powerful. Okay, so now I have to do something about this fork threat. I could retreat the bishop. Let's take first. And that leaves him with this isolated pawn, and then retreat the bishop. And if he pushes the pawn forward, where's my knight going? My knight can go to, now my knight can go to d5 if he pushes that pawn forward. So I think this is okay. I came out of this with a slightly better pawn structure. There's a weakness for me to attack here. You know, I didn't think about it. I should have checked to see if I could actually just take on d6 right away. I can't because it's protected, but I should have thought about it. Sometimes those automatic retreating moves get you into trouble. So, do I want to play knight to f4 now? Knight f4, knight d5. If I play knight f4, is he going to play g5? That'll be a little bit annoying. Well, see, knight f4, g5, I go to d5. But he might then follow up with this move. Well, I take the knight with check. I think knight f4 looks like a good square for the knight. Sometimes you want to prepare knight f4 by playing a move like h4 to control that square, but I don't think it was necessary here to stop g4. The thing is, if he kicks either knight, it can go to d5, and if he kicks one knight and then the other, the knight on d5 can escape with a tempo, because this knight this knight goes with check. Right, so for example, if he played b4 now, I take the knight with check, and then I play knight to d5, the other knight, getting it away from trouble. So what's he want to do? So now I can take here with check. He takes with the bishop. Then I go here, hitting his bishop. And he retreats the bishop, I guess. I have to be careful about my loose bishop here. He will have a knight move with tempo after that. Yeah, a little bit tricky. How about I just defend my bishop so it's not hanging if this diagonal opens up? Because I was thinking that sequence would be good for me. Knight takes, bishop takes, and then knight here. But he had this knight to f3 check, opening up that diagonal with a tempo on my bishop. So I'm preparing to take on f6. And, you know, getting rid of some of the force here I think is good for me. I'm just going to try and go for a simpler position where I'll just try and get pressure against the isolated backwards d-pawn here. I can't say isolated backwards, it's just isolated. I was calling it backwards because it was so far back in his camp. But actually, because the pawn is not very far advanced, it's pretty easy for him to defend. So I can't. I don't think I get any pressure against it in the middle game. But maybe going towards the end game, I can pile up on it. Okay, so he defended his bishop, cleared this b file for his rook. So this is what I'm thinking: knight takes, bishop takes, knight here. Now the knight here check is no good because my bishop is defended, so he will retreat his bishop. Well, I mean, at the very least, I get a very nice-looking piece on d5, and I get rid of one pair of knights. And I'm assuming he didn't want to give up that bishop, so he would drop back to g7. If he goes to d7, e7 rather, to defend the pawn, I'll just take it off. So then, you know, I've kind of gotten his knight or his bishop away from defense of the d pawn. So maybe I can kind of build up on the d file, looking at that pawn, and then move my knight away for some kind of attack on that pawn. Ah, he doesn't mind giving up the bishop. Okay, let's keep taking. Yeah, actually, he's running into trouble here. There is a pin. Is that trouble? Well, I guess it's not trouble. He can always escape with knight to... Well, no, that loses a piece. Knight to f3 check loses the knight. Yeah, I think he's in trouble. What I'm thinking about is playing the move f4 here. Okay, well, let's think about it before I play it. I have time. Pawn to f4 hits the knight, and then there's this pin on this diagonal. And the knight can move with check, but the only check is here at f3, and I have bishop takes. And his bishop is attacking, but my queen is defending. Also my rook by the time I play f4. So can he go somewhere else with the knight? You know, here, 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 or back? I think this wins the exchange. He retreats the knight somewhere. He can take first. Maybe I have to be a little bit worried. If he takes first, and I take with the e-pawn, then he has the queen check. Yeah. And if I run to the corner, then he can take my bishop with check. Is that really a problem, though? Take here, queen b6 check, king to h1. Bishop takes bishop check, king g2. And the queen can check on this diagonal. And I can interpose with my queen. No, I can't. Okay, so let's avoid the check and play it this way. Open up the G file. Just, it was looking a little bit tricky. Aha. So he's going to get a check with his knight, or with his rook, in this line. But the knight will still be pinned against the king. And then he can bring his queen to that square. But I can take the knight with... no, I should take with the pawn. I think this is okay. It's always a little bit worrisome when his pieces start to pile up here, but that knight is hard. It's a hard pin against that knight. So I can actually even spend a move like play rook g1 or queen to e2 to defend on h2. So I went there. Okay, so let's go ahead and take the knight. Queen went there, check. But with the knight out of the way, I can block with my queen. Can also take or push this pawn with check now. So I think I managed to win this one. So maybe this rating is correct. Who knows? Oh, so he just moved his king away. That allows me to trade queens, which is certainly going to make my life easier. Just being a piece up. One, two, three, 4 pawns to 4 pawns versus 3 pawns. So just have to avoid doing something foolish and losing. He can get his rook to the 7th rank, I guess. I can move my rook with check. So even if he puts his rook on the 7th rank, it's not really a big threat here. Okay, so he goes there. Let's just get rid of another rook. A pawn up endgame with an extra piece should be pretty simple. So now he has this idea of he can check here and then check here and pick up my bishop. So that is something to think about. So let's bring the rook back to defend my bishop, and then I'll start bringing my king into the game. Okay. So everything looks good here. I'm going to use my king to help this pawn move forward. My rook is going to just secure things on the back rank here. And on the second rank. And yeah, I don't see how he has any kind of counterplay. Okay, he's going to try and push his pawns forward. I guess I should take first. And I should stop that pawn from coming forward and harassing my bishop. I like to have safe squares for all my pieces. So that's defended, so now I can just push this pawn forward. Here, let's put the rook behind the pawn. So, yeah, there's just no way that black can defend this position. Of course, he's welcome to play on. There's always a possibility of a mistake here. And let's see. So, okay, so he is threatening mate. I push the pawn and he mates me. So let's check first. And let's check again. And now, let's see. I could lift this pawn up. Yeah, he can come attack the bishop, I guess. That is true. Let's come back and defend the bishop. So he's going to make this as difficult as possible, but as long as I don't walk into any mates, this should be pretty straightforward. So I'm defending my bishop this time from the front instead of the side. Allows me to move my pawn forward. So let's go ahead and do that. Eventually he's going to run out of squares for his rook, from which his rook can harass my king. I think I can this forward one more square. So let's see, check here is the way to do the final queening of the pawn. And then you bring the rook here. You bring the king here to threaten queening. And then when he checks you, then you interpose with the rook. Had to stop the rook coming to f8. So I got the queen, and he can win the queen back, but I will have a rook, and I can win with the rook. I can win with the rook against the king. Okay, so he decided to resign. Anyway, good game. I'll upload this and do a postmortem. See you guys later. Bye.